this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do the pebble stitch. Really beautiful 4-row repeated pattern, but you have rows 2 and 4 which are very similar, and rows 3 and 5 which are exactly the same and just a UK double crochet row. This video is worked in UK terms. I do try to remember to say the US equivalents throughout, but please be mindful of that as you watch the video. So you have a beautiful texture on one side and you have a smooth reverse, so if you wanted to use it for bags or trivets, something that you want smooth on the inside but you still want texture on the outside, this is the perfect stitch for that. So let's have a look at the tutorial. So for this tutorial I'm using a DK weight yarn. You can use any weight yarn you like with the corresponding crochet hook. So for the DK I'm going to be using a 4mm crochet hook. I have scissors to cut off my end, and yarn needle to sew in my end, and a stitch marker just in case I need one. So I'm going to start off by making a foundation chain. Now this foundation chain is made in multiples of an even number. So I'm going to start with a slip knot. You can do this in whichever way you prefer. And then we need to start making our chain. So to do that you yarn over, pull through the loop on your hook, that's 1, yarn over, pull through the loop 2, 3, 4. I'm going to make a sample piece of 20 chains. You can make your sample piece as wide as you would like, or your project as wide as you would like it to be, as long as you're using even numbers. So pause the video now whilst you make your foundation chain. So I have my foundation chain of 20. I'm now going to start row 1, and row 1's a setup row. So what we're going to do is work in the second chain from the hook, so we don't count the one on the hook. So 1, 2, and in there I'm going in with a double crochet. That's UK terms. In US terms that would be a single crochet. So you insert, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. I'm going to do a double crochet in the next stitch or chain, and we're going to put 1 double crochet or single crochet in US into every chain back down our foundation chain. So pause the video now whilst you work your row of double crochets, and I shall see you at the end of the row. So I'm just coming up to my last 2 double crochets on my setup row for row 1. And we're ready to begin the repeated pattern. So rows 2, 3, 4 and 5 are the repeating pattern, but you'll see they're all very similar and very easy to do. So for row 2 then, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Throughout the whole piece, the chain 1 at the start does not count, therefore we work into that very first stitch there. And into that first stitch we're going to do a double crochet as we did on the previous row. And now we're going to start working the pebble stitches. So the pebble stitch is basically a puff stitch followed by a double crochet. So in the next stitch we're going to do a puff stitch, and to do that we yarn over, insert into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. We're going to do that 3 times. So that was 1, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, 2, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, 3. You should have 7 loops on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're going to yarn over and pull through all 7 loops. Now we're not going to chain 1 on the top here because our double crochet in the next stitch is going to seal off that puff stitch. So we're going into the next stitch with a double crochet. And that's your pebble stitch done. Into the next stitch we're going to do the puff. So remember, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, and then repeat that, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, and a third time, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through. You've got your 7 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 7, and then double crochet into the next stitch. Remember that single crochet in US. Okay, then puff stitch into the next one, so 1 and 2 and 3, 7 loops, yarn over, pull through all 7, and double crochet into the next stitch. And you'll find that those puffs are actually being pushed out on the back of your work. So we're going to continue all the way down the row to the very last stitch, and the very last stitch will be a closing off double crochet. So puff, double, puff, double, puff, double, all the way down until you get to your last stitch. So continue down the row and pause the video, and I'll come back just before the end of the row. So I'm just doing my last puff and then my last double crochet into the very last stitch of the row. So that's what it looks like on this side, and then the puffs are pushed through on the other side. So in order to make sure our puffs are always on the same side, we have to do a return row. So we're going to do row 3 now, which is chain 1, turn our work. Again, the chain 1 doesn't count. So we're going to work into that very first stitch there, and we're going in with a double crochet. Then we're going to go into a double crochet into the next stitch. Now be very careful here. It looks like you're going into this part here, the V there. And what you need to do is just turn your work slightly and you'll see the V on the top, and that's what you need to go through. So make sure you're not going through those 2 parts of the stitch and that you're going through these 2 parts. So we're going in there with the double crochet. If you need to twist your work, that's fine. Makes life easier for you. And we're just going to put 1 double crochet, that's single crochet in US, into each of the stitches back down the row. So 1 goes into the top of the puff stitch and 1 goes into the double crochet stitch. So just work your way back down the row, and I will see you at the end of the row. So pause the video now. So there I finished my row, my return row of double crochets, and we're going to now start row 4, which is another puff stitch row. Now we need to make sure that our puffs are going in between the puff stitches that are already there. If our puffs went into directly on top, what would happen with our work is we'd end up with a rhombus. So instead of it being square, it would start to go off at an angle. So this is why it's a 4-row repeat, because the start of row 4 is slightly different to the start of row 2. Only slightly though. So chain 1 and turn your work. Chain 1 doesn't count. Double crochet into that first stitch as we did on row 2, then double crochet into the second stitch, and now we can start our puff stitch 2 and 3 and double crochet in the next one, puff stitch in the next one, 1, 2, 3, and double crochet in the next one. And what you'll see then is that your puffs are in between the stitches, and that double crochet helps to keep the 2 double crochets, help to keep our sides straight. So we're going to continue that way all the way down the row until we get to our last 2 stitches. So it's a puff stitch, 1, 2, 3, 7 loops, yarn over, pull through all 7 if it'll let you, cool, and then a double crochet, puff stitch, double crochet, puff stitch, double crochet till you get to your last two stitches, and I shall see you at the end of the row. So pause the video now. So I've just done my last puff stitch and I've got 2 stitches left. Now we started the row with 2 double crochets. We're going to finish the row with a double crochet in each of the last 2 stitches. So double crochet in the first one there and double crochet into the last one. So for the final row then, which is essentially a repeat of row 3, so row 5, chain 1, turn your work, and 1 double crochet into each of the stitches. Remember, we go into that very first stitch because that chain 1 doesn't count. So it's a double crochet, single crochet in US, and don't forget to turn your work slightly so you can see the V's on the top more clearly if you need to. And we're just going to work our way down the row. So pause the video now whilst you work your double crochet row, and I shall see you at the end of this row. So that's row 5 complete, and what I need to do now is to go back to row 2. So rows 2, 3, 4 and 5 are the repeating pattern throughout. So remember, row 2 starts with a chain 1, turn your work, 1 double crochet into the first, then into your puff stitch, double crochet, puff stitch, double crochet. Row 3 is just a double crochet row. Row 4 is 2 double crochets at the start and 2 at the end, and row 5 is double crochets all the way through. Okay, so I'm going to work up a few more rows for you to see how it looks, and I shall see you in a moment. So I've just worked up a few more rows for you to see how it looks. It's really lovely, very pretty stitch. You can see you've got the staggers here, so it's almost a sort of diamond pattern created. I would recommend finishing on a row 5 or a row 3, the double crochet row, just so you've got a matching start and finish. So on the back it's nice and smooth because all those puff stitches push to one side, and then with the return rows it means you have a nice smooth back. So if you're wanting to use this for a bag or a trivet where you want it flat on the back and something textured on the front or the top, then this is the perfect stitch for that. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps YouTube do all of its magic and show it to other crocheters. If you enjoyed seeing my 1980s roller boot, that's my resin roller boot, which is available in my shop and in my Etsy shop. I'll put a link to both in the description below. I'll pop 2 more videos on the side of the screen over here to help you on your crochet journey, and I shall see you over there. Thank you so much for joining me on this one, and happy hooking!